Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. Just because it is 1 o'clock, we're going to get started right away, but we'll let people join in as they arrive. So I just want to welcome you to our webinar, Harmonization of Municipal Standards. My name is Kelly Elliott. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. Thank you all for joining us for the final day of National Public Works Week with our last but certainly not least webinar that AORS was pleased to bring you this week alongside some of our fantastic partners. As we have all this week, I want to begin by taking a moment to recognize and thank each and every one of you for the impact you have on your communities across the province. The work of municipal public works professionals often goes unnoticed, and when it is noticed, unfortunately, it can sometimes come in the form of negative feedback. The reality is that your work is often thankless, but our community simply cannot function without you. From maintaining critical infrastructure and protecting our environment to ensuring safe roads, reliable services, and healthy communities, the work you do matters immensely. You truly are the public works superheroes of your communities, and National Public Works Week is an opportunity to celebrate and recognize the incredible contributions you make every single day. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter, Jason Kittle. Jason is the Manager of Municipal Standards Harmonization Office at the Ontario Ministry of Transportation. He brings extensive leadership experience in municipal operations, engineering, and policy development. Jason has more than 2 decades of experience in municipal governance with a background spanning operations, construction, asset management, and transportation services. He currently contributes to national transportation initiatives through his involvement with the Transportation Association of Canada. Jason's work focuses on fostering stakeholder alignment, leading complex infrastructure and standards initiatives, and advancing modernized frameworks that support safe, efficient, and sustainable transportation systems across Ontario. As a reminder, before we begin, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, but feel free to put any questions into the chat throughout the webinar, and I will monitor them as we go. Additionally, this will be recorded and shared for everyone who registered. So with that, Jason, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. And thanks to AORS for inviting MTO to provide this update during National Public Works Week. I've spent a lot of time in the public works departments and sections, so I echo your comments there. I really appreciate what you said. I think it's especially what's going on these days. You hear a lot of bad press in regards to how municipalities and how our workers are treated. So thank you for saying that. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining on this Friday afternoon. The Municipal Standards Harmonization, I know it's a new initiative that started last year, so I'm going to talk about that. So the purpose of today's webinar, I want to provide an update on the program status of the Municipal Road Standards Harmonization. I want to identify the key items that are in the future regulation. I want to present the proposed program governance structure to identify opportunities and participation. I also want to identify next steps. Very importantly, the regulation is not yet finalized or signed. So today's content is really based on public postings, comments received from municipality stakeholders and the industry, and the draft components of the future regulation, which we've currently, like I mentioned, we've drafted now. So you will see some verbiage in here in regards to what that regulation looks like. So why harmonization? Well, municipalities set their own road construction standards. There's 444 municipalities across the province. There's 443 that actually have roads. And every municipality does something a little different. There are 2 sets of provincially sponsored standards that are available. There's the PROVs and the MUNIs. The PROVs are strictly for provincial highways. They are mandated and they must be used in contracts. And then we have the MUNI standards. The MUNI standards are inherently flexible. They're non-mandatory. So what you end up having is you have municipalities that either multiple things that can be done with standards. They can use the MUNI standards as a base and then adapt them how they will and how they need them for each municipal need. They can use the standard as is. Again, like I mentioned, it is very flexible. So there's clauses and different items you can add and remove from those standards. And then you can also use just any standard that you make up. So whether it's you're in a remote area and you don't have access to certain items that may have been identified in a previous standard, You might have a specific industry need that you need to match your municipality's requirements, and that standard has been developed and is probably working great for you. So the intent behind this was the province in through the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act, which came out in the spring of 2025. The government signaled that they wanted to look at standardizing these road construction standards. Um, the feedback was to get to this point, or to get to that point, was there was issues with standards not being consistent. There was problem with how they were being bid on, how they were being rolled out, and it was causing delays in infrastructure getting built. Um, sorry, sorry, just pop up. Um, so in order to do that, we looked at a couple of different things. And one of the items that we have, there was current legislation, the Public Transportation and Highway Improvement Act. It already identified or allowed for the minister to mandate standards. For those who are familiar with bridges, the Bridges Act was created out of this, and it's mandating how bridges are built. There was an item there for road standards, but the intent, or what we needed to do, was reinforce that to identify other requirements like reporting and the ability for them to be mandated and which specific standards. So during the summer and fall last year, there was a lot of conversation in regards to about how that PTHI was going to be amended. Um, we wanted to look at increasing consistency, streamline procurement, and improve technical reviews. So it's going to go. Sorry, one sec. Okay, so with that legislation in mind, engagement took place. So it was advertised through in-person and virtual meetings. There was an ERO posting. We received comments in regards to how that would impact municipalities, how that would impact industry. And it's not all, it wasn't all good news. We didn't expect it to be a clean item. So there was potential opportunities as well as potential challenges that needed to be looked at. So first off, thank everybody who was able to send in comments because it was important. It does help build a strong regulation as we move forward. So the feedback received helped shape the proposed regulation, which we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes. We did some jurisdictional scans to see outside of Canada, outside of the US, and around the world. But there's unfortunately not a lot of previous work that's been done on mandated standards. So again, it reinforced the use of the OPSS.MUNI standards that we currently already had in place. So the amendment of the PTHIA was done, again, was posted through the Regulatory Registry posting. We made the amendments, and it was passed in the fall. It outlined the ability to mandate the standards, but it needed another piece of legislation, which would be a minister's reg, which would be required to outline how the standards would be mandated and all the other pieces that would go to that. So all these comments and concerns were addressed through the draft regulation. You see a bunch of items on here, and you'll be able to go back to them, but really a lot of stuff is to cost, driving efficiencies, but we need to, again, offset those with the challenges. We fully understand that, not every municipality is the same, and there's concerns about small, remote construction companies being able to address and deal with the standards. Very clearly, the intent's not to make the standards all one across the province, and there needs to be some sort of flexibility, which we will talk about here in a minute. So the proposed regulation. So the regulation currently proposed is needed to operationalize those authorities that were identified under the PTHIA. So broadly, the regulation has the following components. So this includes identifying which standards to prioritize in the first phase of harmonization. These are in the areas of hot mix asphalt, aggregates, and drainage. For those who might have saw the registry that was posted, there are 62 standards. There's 61 standards that have been identified in the first phase, plus an additional standard, which is the general conditions of contract. So that brings it to 62. We also identified, or in the regulation, it will identify the transition period. So it's not going to be coming into effect the day of signing. There is a proposed date of July 1st, 2027. Then that's when the standards would need to be mandatory. There's also a defined exemption process. So so we understand that there's going to be a need for an exemption. There's some that will not be able to comply for whatever reason, and I'll talk more about that soon. But there will be an exemption process. So if there's a reason that a municipality cannot fulfill and meet the requirement to use a standard, there will be an exemption process for an application of a mandatory standard exemption. Lastly, we are looking at establishing a reporting requirement that will support program evaluation and future program changes. That would be in the form of an annual report. Um, Again, 62 standards up front. There will be more. The intent is to harmonize and standardize all of the standards. There is currently 260 that are just above 260 standards that are in the OPSS.MUNI library today, and that may increase. There's standards out there that are probably not currently developed under the MUNI portfolio, and that is additional work that will be done along the way. The regulatory posting. So when this was identified, what this regulation would look like, it was posted and it closed back in March 30th, 2026. So we've taken that feedback from those submissions, all those inquiries, all those comments that we had, and we have amended the draft regulation. And it's like I said, it has not been signed at this point. It's still going through the process. So the first standards, so priority standards. I talked about hot mix, asphalt, aggregates, and drainage. However, when you look at the list of 61, they do stretch beyond those three categories. The reason why is there's reference standards. So if there's a standard tied to the specific home standard, we're looking at adding those two. So, go from 20 standards right up to 61 pretty quickly because of those reference standards. The general condition of contract is a large item. Fully understanding that every municipality has their own general conditions of contract, and may not be specific to roads. They may be one that is used for all projects, and it then requires quite a bit of might require quite a bit of rework in regards to making that a standard document that can be used across the province. So that's one of the sticking points we have right now to be upfront, and hence why it's taken a bit of time to fulfill this the final drafting of the regulation. I've talked about the transition period for July 1st, 2027, and these standards are base standards, and while they've been flexible and allowing individuals to modify them as needed, with partnerships like the Municipal Engineers Association, municipalities, and industry stakeholders, these standards are in great shape. There's great information on them, and they're a great base to start with. So in some cases, some of those standards may not need much work. They are probably used by a large percentage of municipalities, and therefore, like I said, do not need much work to do more on them. Future phase standards. We've been asking for comments in regards to what do people think are our priorities for the next round. While we talked about these top three categories, one of the items, for instance, is traffic safety. If there's consistency across the province in regards to safety, there's great benefits that can be had. So that's one of the items that has been identified, and then you tie that, and next is signs for safety as well. So we're looking for comments, looking for feedback around future phase standards. But like I mentioned, it's the intent is to harmonize all standards, and it's going to take a bit of time to do that. but that is the intent. But it's not just about the standards. So we talked about the transition. So what does the transition really look like? So this is about around the procurement and how you advertise for your projects. So if we look at the July 1st, 2027, you can currently keep moving with your projects today. You can procure them next year. You can put them all out using your existing standards, no modifications. When you start to advertise or start to procure your projects after July 1st, 2027, you would be required to use the standards that are identified in the regulation. So the 61 standards, plus the general conditions of contract, if that continues as is for the July 1st, 2027, you would need to have those in your standards or your contracts moving forward. Which goes to the exempt. Yeah, so again, right up to the end of June, you can use your existing standards. As of July 1st, you would need to incorporate the mandated standards. The exemption process. So for exceptional circumstances where compliance with a standard is not feasible, the intent is to have an application process that you can apply for an exemption from use of a standard. We are proposing a project-based exemption process. So you base it on your project. If you have a standard that you cannot use for that project for whatever reason, you would provide the required supplemental or supportive information to support your request. That would be done, and then we would provide a response back on how you could move forward. We are going to, again, further as we talk here, the intent behind this is not to make this too elaborate. We want to make sure this does not impede the ability to move a project forward. So we understand that we are going to have to move this fast and get a response back to you. Having said that, waiting to the week before you procure something is probably not the best way to do this. You are going to want to do this in advance. If you know that you can't do it, use a standard while you're going through your design process. That would be the time to be applying for this exemption. The other part is the reporting. So it's an annual report. So what we'd be looking at is starting in 2028, you would be reporting for the previous year. So, looking at the spring of 2028 and gathering information for how you applied your standards in the previous year. So further communication on the expectations, the format, the submission process is going to be available closer to the date that the reporting is required, as well as exemptions. We expect that to have documents available later this year. So governance. So to make this work, for those who are or have been involved with the current standards, the OPSS.MUNI standards, the OPS system and framework, there is a bit of a governance that is in place. So we're not we're trying to utilize as much as we can there because we've got great work that's been done previously. However, there's new pieces that need to be added because it's going to be part of a regulation and there is mandatory components to it. So the governance framework will support future standard updates and implementation. So we're exploring a model to ensure the ongoing municipal input, industry technical expertise, transparent and regular review of standards. We need to engage a regionally diverse mix of municipalities. So the governance structure is not finalized. It is also not part of the regulation. It is a work that is going to be taking place over these next couple of months. And we're really looking for partners. We are looking for people to put their hand up and say they want to be part of developing standards. We want to be part of making decisions. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to make this successful, but municipalities, industry need to have their voices heard, and we want them to be involved in this as we move forward. So if we look at the conceptual governance structure we have here, so at the top you have the blue, which is called the Municipal Standards Governance Board. Don't worry about names. The intent behind this is to show a bit of a structure and the framework that we're looking at. So at a top level, that's the strategic oversight body. So they're going to ensure alignment with provincial priorities and reflect what we're hearing from municipalities and other partners. They need to be responsible for the delegated authority, which is going to be defined in the regulation. Um, the next group we have is the Municipal Standards Program Management Committee. They are going to turn the board's direction into action. It coordinates regular work or activity, it manages priorities, and supports the program advisory committees. So for those again who are interested or know the OPS system now, that's green box or the program management committee is similar to what the advisory board is doing today. The program advisory committees. So they're going to provide subject matter expertise, identify issues specifically around municipal issues, going to identify improvements, as well as emerging needs. Um, there's going to be three. We've identified three PACs. The first one is this Technical Standards Committee. So they're going to review recommendations and provide feedback and direction on revisions as needed. They're going to publish the final updated versions of the standards. So before I go across the other PACs, I'm just going to talk about the specialty committees. So the specialty committees are similar to what's done today. They are siloed expertise focused on creating quality standards and drawings. Um, there may be more that are required to, currently there's 9. There may be more needed. There may be less. That's more to be figured out as we get moving and we proceed. But really those individuals, we need the experts that, currently know what the standards, how they're being applied in the field, what are needed to be the best decisions going forward for both municipality and industry. So those and suppliers, sorry. So that's a big piece that, going to be looking for individuals to sit on those committees. A lot of standards to review and a lot of information to go over. Another PAC we have is the Compliance and Reporting Committee. So they're going to focus on ensuring the requirements of the regulation are met. So we're looking at those reporting as well as those exemption processes will flow through that compliance and reporting committee. The other one we have is Communications and Education Committee. They're going to lead training, education, and communications in the Muni standards. We've heard through feedback that there's going to be education needed to, one, interpret the regulation, and we will be having or creating documents and training for that. As well as moving forward in regards to how to apply the standards, how to, go through the exemption process. A lot of Q&As, a lot of how-tos. That's going to be flowing out of that committee as well. So as you see, there's no specifics on membership or roles at this point. No decisions have been made. This is a work in progress. We are going to be looking to get volunteers and find out who is interested in this. So there will be some surveys and some correspondence going out in the very near future that will be looking for volunteers to participate in this program. So a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of coordination to keep everything consistent, to keep it available. One of the things we are looking at is we currently have a TCP or a technical consultation portal that is used specifically for the Prov standards and reaching out to stakeholders and getting comments on standards and drawings. There are some Muni components that is used through that. What we're looking at doing is mirroring this so that it will be specifically for Muni only. Our intent is to make it as easy as possible to be a single location for communications, information, provide updates, and get forms. So this is a work in progress. Like I said, we're currently working with our IT folks right now. On the right side there, you see sort of the central forms repository. That is where any form. So if you have to reach out to the province to get a form, it's kept on this system and you can locate it there. So we're going to be linking the two to make sure that we keep consistent security standards. Everything is met for moving forward. So again, a work in progress. We were hoping to get this up and running during the summer, and then we can start communicating out through this single site. So next steps. So we have reviewed the registry postings. We've added the comments, we've taken the comments, and we've amended the draft regulation. The intent now is to get approval on the amendments and get it signed to move forward. We're going to continue engaging with stakeholders through this year. Like I mentioned, we're going to be reaching out over the next couple of months, specifically around governance. But we got to get started on reviewing those standards. So that's going to be an item that we're looking forward to moving fairly quickly on. So some more to come on that as well. We are working to finalize our engagement plan, which is going to identify how, who, and when we reach out to different individuals. Um, Governance, like I mentioned, governance, we're looking for you to put your hand up for those who want to be interested, or if your municipality is interested, or if you're an industry individual or supplier and you want to get on a list of participation, please reach out. The email there on the top, msho@ontario.ca, that's a direct email address that comes to me and my team. We are happy to put you on the list. And the other thing is to make sure that we have the current information, contact information for reaching out to you and specifically your municipality. We think we've got everybody that we to connect to, but people change their roles at the where they are, and we are happy to get those updates and make sure that we're connecting directly to the right people. We're going to be developing the initial group of standards, identifying the next group of standards, and then, yeah, moving forward, we'll be coming up. So amendments. So I can just maybe talk about the regulation quickly. Every time we have a standard that needs to be included, the regulation will need to be amended. So we're looking at sort of a batch system a couple times a year that we will say, okay, here's another 30 standards that will get added to the list within the regulation. So the intent behind that is, communicate early that, hey, these are the standards that are currently being reviewed. We'll go through the whole comments component, make sure we're reaching out and saying, hey, get all the feedback. The standard will be updated, and then it'll be added to the regulation with a specific date that those will be coming into compliance. That's it in a nutshell, my presentation. So Kelly, I'm happy to start Q&A early if you'd like.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Jason, for that presentation. If anyone has any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. You might get off easy here, Jason. I am not seeing anyone unmuting. So with that, I think that's great that you get off nice and easy, Jason. I was
Cool.
a little worried for you today.
That's okay.
Um,
If I can maybe just say, Kelly, that, and just so we know, as once that regulation gets amended, there definitely will be more communication coming out because that's going to be clear on the direction and what we're doing for steps. Right now, it's sort of this presentation has been based on draft comments that we've received in the draft regulation itself. Obviously, we will get into specifics more, and if there's any timeline changes or anything else that changes, we'll definitely want to communicate that out as soon as this happens. And like anything that regulation that gets passed through in the province, there will be communication going through the proper channels in there too as well, the registry postings.
Perfect. Well, the chat says you got torched pretty good at Good Roads, so they'll give you a break today.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you so much, Jason, for your presentation and for joining us. And always, AORS is happy to partner and share information in the future.
Yeah, awesome.
Perfect. So
Thanks, Kelly, and thanks, Aors, for sure.
perfect. And thanks, and everyone, and have a great day. And like I said before, all the links for these will be provided to you early next week. If you have any other questions or as Jason had mentioned, his email's there, but feel free to reach out and we can make the connections as well. So
Yeah.
have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.